The alien world of Vareth shimmered under the light of its twin moons, a place where nature thrived in ways that seemed almost magical to outsiders. Towering trees with translucent leaves glowed softly, casting ethereal patterns on the forest. Floor rivers flowed like liquid crystal, reflecting every hue of the rainbow as they wound through the landscape. But this beauty was not for admiration, it was a battlefield. For centuries, the Jalari ruled these lands. They were feline-like beings, sleek and powerful, their fur glowing faintly in hues of silver, gold, and deep blue. With retractable claws sharper than steel and reflexes faster than lightning, they were apex predators. Humans had only recently arrived on Vareth, stumbling into this world by accident during one of their exploratory missions. Their ships crash-landed near the outskirts of the bioluminescent forests, leaving them stranded and vulnerable. To the Jalari, humans were little more than pests, fragile creatures who walked awkwardly, spoke loudly, and carried strange tools that made sparks and noise. The Jalari mocked them openly, calling them softskins because of their lack of fur or natural defenses. Humans were ignored at best and hunted at worst if they ventured too far into Jalari territory. On this particular night, the air was thick with tension. Kayla, a young Jalari warrior, prowled silently through the forest. Her golden eyes scanned the shadows while her ears twitched at every rustle of leaves. She had been sent on patrol after reports of rival hunters encroaching on her clan's territory. These rivals were no ordinary threat. They used poisoned arrows, tipped with venom so potent it could paralyze even a Jalari within moments. Kella's mission was simple: find the intruders and drive them away, but fate had other plans. As she leapt gracefully over a fallen log, a sharp pain shot through her front paw. Kayla let out a startled yowl and tumbled to the ground. An arrow protruded from her flesh, its tip already oozing greenish-black venom. Panic surged through her veins, not just from the searing pain but also from the realization that she was now alone in hostile territory, injured and unable to move quickly. Kayla tried to pull herself up, but her muscles began to weaken. The poison was spreading fast, numbing her limbs and clouding her vision. She growled low in frustration, her pride warring with her instinct to survive. She couldn't call for help. Doing so would reveal her weakness to both her enemies and her own kind. In Jalari culture, showing vulnerability was a sign of failure, something punishable by exile or worse. As her strength faded, Kayla collapsed against a moss-covered rock. Her breathing grew shallow, and her glowing fur dimmed. It was then that she heard it, a sound unlike anything she expected. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate, clumsy footsteps crunching through the underbrush. At first, she thought it might be another hunter coming to finish her off. But when she forced her heavy eyelids open, what she saw shocked her. A human stood there, silhouetted against the pale glow of the forest. He wore patched-up clothes and carried a small bag slung over his shoulder. His face was smeared with dirt, but his expression was calm, almost curious. He knelt beside her cautiously, his movements slow and careful. Kayla bared her teeth, trying to snarl despite her paralysis, but all that came out was a weak hiss. The man didn't flinch. Instead, he reached into his bag and pulled out a pair of tweezers and a small vial of clear liquid. "Hold still," he said in broken Jalari, his voice soft but firm. Kayla wanted to lash out, to tear him apart with her claws, but her body betrayed her. All she could do was watch as the human examined the arrow lodged in her paw with steady hands. He gripped the shaft of the arrow and pulled it free in one swift motion. Kayla let out a strangled cry, though whether from pain or shock, she couldn't tell. The man worked quickly, applying the clear liquid to the wound before wrapping it tightly with a strip of cloth. When he finished, he leaned back and looked at her, his dark eyes meeting hers. "You're lucky I found you," he said simply, switching to his native tongue since he knew she wouldn't understand anyway. Then, without another word, he stood up and began walking away, disappearing into the glowing forest. Kayla lay there, stunned. Why had he helped her? Humans were supposed to be selfish, primitive creatures who cared only about themselves. Yet this one had risked his life to save hers. And as her strength slowly returned, a single thought burned in her mind. Asterisk why? Asterisk little. Did she know this act of kindness would set off a chain of events that would change not only her life but the fate of two species forever? Kella's recovery was slow but steady. The venom had left her weak, and the wound in her paw throbbed with every step she took. Yet, despite her discomfort, her mind raced with questions about the human who had saved her. She replayed the moment over and over in her head, the way he had knelt beside her without fear, his calm demeanor, and the strange tools he used to remove the arrow. Humans were supposed to be cowards. Yet this one had shown no hesitation. Her clanmates noticed her distraction during hunts and training sessions. When asked what troubled her, Kayla brushed them off, unwilling to admit that a human Asofskin had done something none of her own kind would have dared. Pride burned within her, but so did curiosity. Who was this human? Why had he helped her when he could have easily left her to die? And most importantly, how had he known how to treat the poison? Determined to find answers, Kayla began venturing closer to the edge of the forest where the humans had settled. Their makeshift camp was a stark contrast to the elegance of the Jalari territory. Tents made of patched fabric stood haphazardly among piles of scavenged metal and broken machinery. The humans moved with purpose, their hands busy repairing equipment or gathering food. They spoke in loud voices, laughing and arguing as if unaware or unafraid of the dangers lurking around them. One evening, Kayla spotted him, the same human who had saved her. He was crouched by a small fire, examining the contents of a battered box. His face was illuminated by the flickering flames, revealing lines of exhaustion etched into his skin. Kayla hesitated, hidden behind a cluster of glowing ferns. Her instincts screamed at her to attack, to assert dominance over this fragile creature. But something held her back, a lingering sense of gratitude, perhaps, or simply the need to understand, summoning her courage. Kayla stepped out into the open. The human froze when he saw her, his eyes widening in surprise. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then slowly he raised his hands, palms facing outward in a gesture of peace. "I won't hurt you," he said in broken Jalari, his voice steady despite the tension in the air. Kayla growled softly, her tail flicking side to side. She didn't trust him, not completely, but she couldn't deny that he had earned some measure of respect. Lowering herself into a defensive crouch, she studied him closely. His clothes were worn, his boots scuffed, and his hair unkempt. He looked nothing like the fierce warriors of her clan, yet there was an undeniable strength in his gaze. "What do you want?" she demanded, switching to her native tongue. To her surprise, the human tilted his head, listening intently before responding haltingly in Jalari. Talk. His clumsy attempt at communication caught her off guard. Most humans avoided the Jalari altogether, fearing their claws and teeth. Yet here was one who not only dared to approach but also tried to bridge the gap between their species. Intrigued despite herself, Kayla relaxed slightly. "Why?" The human hesitated, searching for words. Finally, he pointed to her injured paw. "You are hurt." "I help." His explanation was simple, almost childlike, but it carried a weight that silenced Kayla. No Jalari would have offered aid to an enemy or even acknowledged their suffering. Yet this human had done both. As they sat there, an uneasy truce forming between them, other humans began to notice. A group of them emerged from the shadows, their expressions wary but curious. One of them, a woman with short dark hair and sharp features, approached cautiously. "Evan," she called out, addressing the man, "what are you doing?" Evan glanced at her briefly before turning back to Kayla. "She's different," he replied, his tone firm. "We can learn from each other." The woman frowned, clearly skeptical, but she didn't argue further. Instead, she exchanged a glance with the others, who nodded silently. It was then that Kayla realized these humans weren't just survivors, they were strategists. They observed, adapted, and found ways to thrive even in hostile environments. Their ingenuity was evident in everything they did, from their makeshift shelters to the crude weapons they crafted from salvaged materials. Kayla's thoughts were interrupted when Evan reached into his bag and pulled out a small bundle wrapped in cloth. Unfolding it carefully, he revealed strips of dried meat and a few pieces of fruit. Holding it out toward her, he said, "For you." Kayla stared at the offering, torn between suspicion and hunger. After a long pause, she cautiously accepted it, sniffing the food before taking a tentative bite. The taste was unfamiliar but satisfying. Evan watched her with a faint smile, his posture relaxed yet alert. This interaction did not go unnoticed by the rest of the humans. Whispers spread among them, some expressing concern while others voiced admiration for Evan's boldness. Meanwhile, Kayla couldn't shake the feeling that this encounter marked the beginning of something extraordinary. Humans were not what she had been taught to believe. They were unpredictable, resourceful, and capable of kindness even in the face of hostility. As the night wore on, Kayla eventually retreated into the forest, her mind buzzing with conflicting emotions. She owed Evan her life, yet her loyalty remained with her clan. Still, one thing was certain: the humans were more than pests. They were a puzzle, one that intrigued her far more than she cared to admit, and deep down she knew this wouldn't be their last meeting. The days that followed Kayla's encounter with Evan were filled with tension and uncertainty. Her clanmates grew suspicious of her frequent disappearances into the forest, especially since she always returned with a distant look in her golden eyes. When pressed for answers, Kayla dismissed their concerns, claiming she was scouting for rival hunters or tracking prey. But her lies only fueled their curiosity and their mistrust. Meanwhile, the humans continued to fortify their makeshift camp, unaware of the growing unease among the Jalari. They had begun clearing a patch of land near the edge of the forest, using tools salvaged from their crashed ship to construct more permanent shelters. The sound of hammers striking metal echoed through the trees, mingling with the hum of alien insects and the rustle of leaves. To the Jalari, these noises were an intrusion, a constant reminder of the humans' presence in what they considered sacred territory. Kayla found herself torn between two worlds. On one hand, her loyalty to her clan demanded that she report the humans' activities and help drive them away. On the other hand, her conversations with Evan had planted seeds of doubt in her mind. He spoke of survival, not conquest, of learning, not destruction. His words challenged everything she had been taught about humans, forcing her to question whether they truly posed a threat or if fear and prejudice blinded her people. One evening, as Kayla prowled closer to the human settlement, she overheard a heated argument. Evan stood facing the woman with short, dark hair, his leader, as Kayla had come to understand. Her name was Mara, and she was fiercely protective of her group. "You're getting too close to them," Mara snapped, her voice low but sharp. "We don't know what they're capable of." "They saved my life once already," Evan countered, his tone calm but resolute. "If we keep treating them like enemies, we'll never find common ground." Mara crossed her arms, her expression hardening. "Common ground? With predators who see us as prey? You're risking all of us because of some misplaced sense of gratitude." "It's not just gratitude," Evan insisted. "They're intelligent, Mara. If we can show them we're not a threat, maybe we can coexist." Kayla listened intently, her heart pounding. She had never heard anyone speak so openly about peace, not even within her own clan. The idea of coexistence seemed impossible, yet Evan's conviction stirred something deep inside her. Could it really be done, or was he simply naive? Her thoughts were interrupted when a sudden commotion erupted in the distance. A group of Jalari warriors burst into view, led by Kayla's older brother, Taran. Their fur bristled with aggression, and their claws gleamed under the light of the twin moons. "What is this?" Taran snarled, his gaze sweeping over the human encampment. "You dare build your nests on our land?" The humans froze, their faces pale with alarm. Some grabbed crude weapons, while others scrambled to shield the younger members of their group. Mara stepped forward, her stance defiant despite the danger. "We mean no harm," she said firmly, though her voice trembled slightly. "We're only trying to survive." "Survive?" Taran spat, baring his teeth. "You have no place here. Leave now, or we will make you leave." Before anyone could react, Kayla emerged from the shadows, stepping between the two groups. "Enough!" she commanded, her voice cutting through the tension like a blade. Every eye turned to her, confusion rippling through both sides. Taryn's expression shifted from anger to disbelief. "Kayla, what are you doing?" "I'm protecting our clan," she replied, meeting his gaze without flinching. Turning to the humans, she added, "and ensuring they don't become a greater threat than they already are." Taryn growled, his tail lashing. "You would defend them after everything they've done?" "They haven't attacked us," Kayla shot back, "not once. Instead, they've shown restraint and even kindness." She glanced at Evan, who watched her silently, his expression unreadable. "If we attack now, we risk turning them into true enemies. Is that what you want?" Her words silenced the group, leaving only the faint crackle of the humans' fire and the distant chirping of nocturnal creatures. For a moment, it seemed as though the standoff might escalate further. Then, unexpectedly, Mara lowered her weapon and took a step back. "We don't want trouble," she said quietly. "But we won't run either, not unless you give us a reason to." Taryn hesitated, his claws flexing as he weighed his options. Finally, with a frustrated growl, he signaled for his warriors to retreat. "This isn't over," he warned before. Disappearing into the forest dot as the tension eased, Kayla turned to Evan, her expression conflicted. "You shouldn't trust me," she admitted. "I'm still Jalari. My loyalty is to my clan." Evan nodded slowly, understanding flickering in his eyes. "But you're also someone who sees beyond fear." "That's why I trust you?" His words struck a chord deep within her, stirring emotions she couldn't fully comprehend. As she returned to her clan that night, Kayla knew one thing for certain. The fragile balance between humans and Jalari was beginning to shift. And she was caught squarely in the middle, torn between duty and discovery. Little did she realize, however, that the challenges ahead would test her resolve and reveal the true strength of humanity's spirit. The days that followed Taryn's confrontation with the humans were marked by an uneasy truce, fragile and tenuous like a spiderweb stretched too thin. Both sides remained wary of each other, though for different reasons. The Jalari viewed the humans as intruders who needed to be monitored closely, while the humans saw the feline-like beings as predators whose patience might snap at any moment. Kayla found herself walking a tightrope between her clan's hostility and Evan's quiet determination to bridge the divide. Despite the tension, Evan didn't give up on his belief that coexistence was possible. He continued to meet Kayla in secret, their conversations becoming more frequent and more meaningful. They exchanged knowledge about their respective worlds. Kayla taught him how to identify edible plants and avoid dangerous wildlife, while Evan shared stories of human ingenuity, describing inventions like medicine, electricity, and spacecraft. These exchanges sparked something in Kayla, a curiosity she hadn't felt since she was a cub. She began to see humans not as pests, but as survivors, resourceful and resilient despite their physical weaknesses. But change is rarely smooth, especially when it challenges deeply ingrained beliefs. One evening, during one of their clandestine meetings, Evan handed Kayla a small device wrapped in cloth. "This is for you," he said, his voice hesitant yet earnest. When she unwrapped it, she found a compact metal object with buttons and a glowing screen. "It's a translator," he explained. "I programmed some basic phrases in your language. If we're going to understand each other better, we need to communicate." Kayla stared at the device, her claws instinctively retracting as if afraid to damage it. Her pride warred with gratitude. Accepting such a gift felt like admitting weakness, yet she couldn't deny its potential value. "Why are you doing this?" she asked finally, her tone softer than usual. "Why do you care so much?" Evan met her gaze, his dark eyes steady. "Because I believe people, any kind of people, can learn from each other, and because—" he paused, searching for words. "Because no one should have to live in fear." His answer struck Kayla harder than she expected. Fear had ruled her life for as long as she could remember, the fear of failure, of weakness, of being cast out by her clan. Yet here was a human, offering her a tool to overcome barriers, not just between their species but within herself. Meanwhile, tensions within the Jalari clan reached a boiling point. Taryn, furious over Kala's interference during the standoff, confronted her openly during a gathering under the twin moons. "You've been seen sneaking off into the forest," he accused, his voice cutting through the murmurs of their fellow warriors. "Spending time with those soft-skins instead of defending our territory. What game are you playing, sister?" Kayla stood tall, refusing to back down. "I'm protecting our clan," she replied, her voice firm. "If we attack without cause, we'll only provoke them. Do you want another war, Taran?" "Another cycle of bloodshed?" Taran snarled, his fur bristling. "They don't belong here. Every day they stay. They grow stronger. How long until they turn on us?" "They haven't turned on us yet," Kayla countered. "And why would they? All they want is to survive, just like us." Her defiance shocked the others, including their elder leader, Matriarch Scylla, who had remained silent throughout the exchange. Now she stepped forward, her silver-furred frame radiating authority. "Enough," she commanded, her voice low but commanding. Turning to Kayla, she added, "Your loyalty is admirable, child, but your actions raise questions. Are you truly acting for the good of our clan or for yourself?" Kayla hesitated, unsure how to respond. Before she could speak, however, a sudden commotion erupted at the edge of the clearing. A young Jalari scout burst into view, panting heavily. "Humans!" he gasped. "They've built machines near the river." Machines that hum and glow. The news sent shockwaves through the clan. Some called for immediate retaliation, while others urged caution. Amid the chaos, Kayla slipped away unnoticed, racing toward the river to investigate for herself. When she arrived, what she saw took her breath away. The humans had constructed a water filtration system using salvaged parts from their ship. Pipes carried clean water into storage tanks, while solar panels powered the entire setup. Children laughed as they filled containers, their faces alight with relief. Mara stood nearby, overseeing the operation while Evan worked alongside others to fine-tune the machinery. Kala watched silently from the shadows, her heart pounding. This wasn't an act of aggression, it was survival, plain and simple. And yet, it was also something more, proof that humans weren't helpless creatures scraping by, they were creators, builders, dreamers. As if sensing her presence, Evan looked up and spotted her. For a moment, they simply stared at each other across the distance. Then, without breaking eye contact, he approached slowly, holding out the translator device. "Here," he said softly, "try it." Kayla hesitated, then activated the device. To her astonishment, a mechanical voice spoke in halting Jalari. "We mean no harm. We seek peace." Her chest tightened as realization dawned. Humans weren't just fighting to survive, they were reaching out, offering understanding. It was a gesture unlike anything her clan had ever encountered. That night, as Kayla returned to her clan, she knew the balance had shifted. The humans' ingenuity and resilience had forced even the fiercest Jalari to question their assumptions. But the real turning point came when Kayla made a decision, one that would test her loyalty to her clan and redefine her place in both worlds. For the first time, she chose to stand not just for survival, but for hope. The pressure mounted with each passing day, like storm clouds gathering on the horizon. Kayla's decision to trust Evan and his people had set events in motion that neither side could ignore. Her clanmates grew increasingly restless, their suspicions turning into outright hostility. Taran led nightly patrols deeper into the forest, searching for evidence of human aggression or justification to attack. Meanwhile, the humans worked tirelessly to fortify their settlement. Knowing full well that conflict was inevitable unless something changed, Kayla found herself caught in a whirlwind of emotions. She wanted to protect her clan, yet she couldn't shake the feeling that attacking the humans would only bring ruin to both sides. Every time she saw Evan or witnessed the humans' ingenuity, her resolve strengthened, but so did her fear of what might happen if her clan discovered the truth about her secret meetings. The weight of her choices pressed down on her, making sleep elusive and her movements tense. One morning, as the sun filtered through the glowing canopy of the forest, Kayla approached Evan at their usual meeting spot near the river. His face was grim, his hands stained with grease from repairing one of their machines. "We need your help," he he said without preamble, his voice low and urgent. Your clan is planning something big. We can feel it. Kayla hesitated, torn between loyalty and honesty. Finally, she nodded. Taryn has been gathering warriors. He believes you're preparing for war. Evan sighed, running a hand through his unkempt hair. It's not war we're preparing for, it's survival, but I guess from their perspective it looks the same. They don't see the difference, Kayla replied bitterly. To them, anything unfamiliar is a threat. And what do you see? Evan asked, his gaze piercing. Kayla looked away, unable to meet his eyes. I see possibility. But that doesn't mean I can stop my clan from acting. Evan stepped closer, his voice softening. Then let us show them. Let us prove that we're not their enemy. How? Kayla demanded, frustration creeping into her tone. They won't listen to me, and they certainly won't listen to you. Maybe not directly, Evan admitted. But actions speak louder than words. If we can demonstrate that we're willing to work together, not just survive separately, maybe it'll plant a seed of doubt in their minds. Kayla frowned, considering his words. It was risky, perhaps even reckless, but she knew Evan was right. Words alone wouldn't be enough to sway her clan. They needed proof, something undeniable. That evening, Kayla returned to her clan's territory, her mind racing with plans. She sought out Matriarch Scylla, finding the elder leader perched atop a rocky outcrop overlooking the forest. Scylla's silver fur shimmered faintly in the moonlight, and her golden eyes glowed with wisdom tempered by years of experience. You've been absent much lately, child, Scylla observed, her voice calm but probing. What troubles you? Kayla took a deep breath, steeling herself. I have a proposal, she began, choosing her words carefully. The humans aren't planning an attack, they're trying to adapt. Their machines aren't weapons, they're tools. If we give them a chance, they might share their knowledge with us. Knowledge that could benefit our clan. Scylla tilted her head, intrigued but cautious. And why should we trust them? Why should we take such a risk? Because they've already shown me kindness, Kayla replied, her voice steady despite the tremor in her heart. Because they've proven they're capable of more than destruction. Because, she paused, searching for the right words. Because fear shouldn't rule our decisions forever. Scylla studied her for a long moment, her expression unreadable. Finally, she nodded slowly. Very well. Show me this kindness you speak of. But know this: if you are wrong, the consequences will fall heavily upon you. Relieved yet apprehensive, Kayla arranged a meeting between the humans and a small delegation of Shalari warriors, including Sela and Taryn, the Chosen. Location was a clearing near the river, neutral ground where neither side held dominance. As the two groups faced each other, the air crackled with tension. The humans stood shoulder to shoulder, their makeshift weapons ready but unused, while the Jalari crouched low, their claws gleaming in the sunlight. Evan stepped forward, holding up the translator device. We come in peace, the mechanical voice announced in halting Jalari. For a moment, silence reigned. Then, unexpectedly, Mara stepped forward as well, carrying a bundle of fresh herbs wrapped in cloth. She placed it on the ground between the groups before stepping back, her posture respectful but firm. Kayla translated quietly for her clanmates. These herbs treat wounds and illnesses, they offer them freely. Taryn growled, distrust etched into every line of his body. A trick, he muttered. They seek to poison us. No, Kayla insisted, her voice rising. They seek to heal. Before anyone could react further, a sudden roar echoed through the forest. A massive predator, shadow beast larger than any Jalari warrior, emerged from the trees, its glowing red eyes locking onto the assembled group. Panic rippled through both sides, but Evan acted quickly. Grabbing a spear-like tool from his belt, he hurled it with surprising accuracy, striking the beast's flank and driving it back temporarily. The distraction gave the humans and Jalari a brief window to regroup. Without hesitation, Kayla leapt forward, her claws unsheathed as she joined Evan in defending against the creature. Together they fought side by side, their movements synchronized despite their differences. When the shadow beast finally retreated into the forest, The clearing fell silent once more. Breathing heavily, Kayla turned to face her clanmates, and saw something she hadn't expected: respect, gratitude, and in Scylla's golden eyes, a flicker of understanding. This moment of unity didn't erase centuries of mistrust, but it planted a seed. A fragile, trembling seed that hinted at the possibility of coexistence. The aftermath of the Shadow Beast attack left both humans and Jalari shaken but alive. For the first time, they had faced a common enemy and survived. As the adrenaline faded and reality set in, Kayla felt the weight of what had just happened settle over her like a heavy blanket. She had fought alongside Evan, their movements instinctively coordinated despite their differences. In that moment, she hadn't seen him as a human or herself as a Jalari. They were simply two beings working together to protect those around them. But now, standing amidst the scattered remnants of the clearing, the claw marks on trees, the trampled herbs, and the lingering scent of fear, she realized how much had changed. Her clanmates looked at her differently, their expressions a mix of confusion, respect, and unease. Taryn's glare burned into her back, while matriarch Scylla watched silently. Her golden eyes thoughtful, Evan approached cautiously, his hands raised in a gesture of peace. "Are you hurt?" he asked, his voice soft but steady. Kayla shook her head, though her wounded pride stung far more than any physical injury. "I'm fine," she replied curtly, avoiding his gaze. Before either of them could say more, Mara stepped forward, addressing the assembled Jalari warriors. "We didn't come here to fight you," she said firmly, her tone carrying authority even through the translator device. "We came here to survive, to find a way to live without causing harm. If we've done anything wrong, it was out of ignorance, not malice." Her words hung in the air, met with silence from the Jalari. Finally, Scylla spoke, her voice low and deliberate. "Survival is not enough. You must prove your intentions are true." It was then that Evan stepped forward again, this time holding up a small vial filled with clear liquid. "This is medicine," he explained, passing it to Kayla, who translated for her clan. "It can heal wounds faster, prevent infections. We want to share it with all of you." Taryn growled, his tail lashing. "Why would you give us such a thing? What do you gain?" Evan met his gaze unflinchingly. "Nothing, except trust." Kayla translated his response, feeling a surge of admiration for his courage. Trust was a foreign concept to the Jalari, especially when it came to outsiders. Yet, as she glanced at the vial in her paw, she couldn't deny its potential value. Medicine like this could save lives, not just human lives, but Jalari lives. 2.SYLA studied the vial carefully, her expression unreadable. After a long pause, she nodded once. "Very well. Show us how it works." Over the next several days, the humans and Jalari worked side by side, forging an uneasy alliance. Under Evan's guidance, the humans demonstrated how to use the medicine, treating minor injuries sustained during the Shadow Beast attack. They also shared other innovations: tools for purifying water, methods for growing crops in harsh soil, and techniques for crafting durable shelters. Each act of generosity chipped away at the wall of mistrust that had stood between the two species for so long. For Kayla, these moments were transformative. Watching her clanmates interact with the humans, hesitant at first, then gradually opening up, filled her with a sense of hope she hadn't felt in years. Even Taryn softened slightly, though his pride kept him from fully embracing the change. When one of the younger Jalari warriors accidentally cut himself while sharpening his claws, a human named Jace offered to clean and bandage the wound. To everyone's surprise, the warrior accepted, his gratitude evident despite his initial reluctance. One evening, as the twin moons bathed the forest in silver light, Kayla found herself sitting beside Evan near the riverbank. The sound of flowing water mingled with the distant hum of cicada-like creatures, creating a soothing backdrop. Neither of them spoke for a while, content to simply exist in each other's presence. Finally, Evan broke the silence. "Do you think we're making progress?" he asked, his voice tinged with uncertainty. Kayla hesitated before answering. "Yes, but it's fragile. One misstep and everything could fall apart." Evan nodded, understanding flickering in his dark eyes. "Then We'll have to make sure there aren't any missteps. His determination stirred something deep within her, realization that humanity wasn't defined by weakness or fragility, but by resilience and compassion. These qualities weren't flaws. They were strengths. And perhaps Kayla thought they were exactly what the Jalari needed to learn. The turning point came unexpectedly during a gathering under the twin moons. Scylla called for a council meeting, inviting both humans and Jalari to attend. As the group assembled, the elder leader stood tall, her silver fur gleaming in the moonlight. "Tonight," she began, her voice carrying across the clearing, "we honor those who have shown us kindness where we expected none. The humans have proven themselves worthy allies not through force, but through action." A murmur rippled through the crowd, disbelief mingling with awe. Kayla held her breath, unsure of what Scylla would say next. "To show our gratitude," Scylla continued, "we offer them sanctuary. Let them remain here, not as intruders, but as partners. Together we will build a future stronger than any past." The announcement stunned everyone, humans and Jalari alike. For a moment, no one moved. Then, slowly, applause erupted from the humans, followed by hesitant cheers from some of the Jalari. Kayla felt tears pricking at the corners of her eyes, though she blinked them away quickly. This was more than she had dared to hope for. As the celebration began, Evan turned to Kayla, his expression warm and grateful. "Thank you," he said simply, "for believing in us." Kayla smiled faintly, her heart swelling with pride and relief. "Thank you," she replied, "for showing me what humanity truly means." The days that followed Scylla's announcement were a whirlwind of activity, filled with cautious optimism and tentative steps toward collaboration. The humans and Jalari worked side by side to build a shared settlement near the river, blending their skills and knowledge to create something neither species could have achieved alone. The humans introduced innovations like irrigation systems and solar-powered lights, while the Jalari contributed their deep understanding of the forest's resources and terrain. Together, they transformed the once hostile borderland into a thriving community. Kayla found herself at the heart of this transformation, acting as a bridge between the two groups. Her role was both challenging and rewarding. She translated words, mediated disputes, and helped foster mutual respect where there had once been only fear. Though some Jalari Taran included remained skeptical, even they couldn't deny the benefits of cooperation. The medicine Evan had shared saved lives during an outbreak of fever among the younger warriors, and the crops grown using human techniques yielded more food than anyone had anticipated. Evan, too, embraced his new responsibilities with quiet determination. He spent hours teaching the Jalari how to use tools and machinery salvaged from their crashed ship, patiently explaining concepts that seemed alien to them. In return, Kayla taught him the intricacies of Jalari culture, their rituals, their language, their connection to the land. Over time, their bond deepened, built not on fleeting gratitude but on shared experiences and mutual trust. One evening, as the twin moons cast their glow over the newly constructed settlement, Kayla stood atop a hill overlooking the bustling scene below. Humans and Jalari moved together seamlessly, laughing and working in harmony. Children played alongside glowing ferns, their laughter echoing through the air. It was a sight she never thought she'd see, a world where differences weren't barriers but bridges. Evan joined her, his presence comforting and familiar. "It's beautiful," he said softly, gazing out at the settlement. "I never imagined it would turn out like this." "Neither did I," Kayla admitted, her voice tinged with wonder. "But maybe that's what makes it so special. We didn't know if it would work, we just kept trying." Evan smiled, turning to look at her. "And now, do you think we've done enough?" Kayla considered the question, her golden eyes reflecting the moonlight. "Enough isn't the right word. There will always be challenges, always things to learn. But I think we've started something bigger than any of us." Her words resonated deeply with Evan, who nodded slowly. "That's all anyone can hope for, to start something worth continuing." As they stood there in silence, watching the stars twinkle above the forest canopy, Kayla felt a profound sense of peace. For so long she had lived in the shadow of fear of failure, of rejection of change. But now, surrounded by proof of what could be achieved when fear gave way to understanding, she realized how much stronger unity made them all. Months later, news of the alliance spread beyond the borders of Verith. Other clans of Jalari began sending envoys to witness the unprecedented partnership, their curiosity outweighing their skepticism. Some came seeking trade or alliances, while others simply wanted to understand how humans and Jalari had managed to coexist. Slowly but surely, the ripple effect of Kayla and Evan's efforts began to reshape not just their corner of the planet, but the entire region. On the anniversary of the Shadow Beast attack, the settlement held a celebration to mark the progress they had made. Fires burned brightly under the twin moons, casting warm light over faces young and old, human and Jalari alike. Songs were sung, stories told, and promises renewed. At the center of it all stood Kayla and Evan, their bond symbolizing everything that had been achieved and everything still possible. As the festivities drew to a close, Matriarch Scylla approached them, her silver fur gleaming in the firelight. "You have changed our world," she said, her voice carrying the weight of centuries. "Not through force, but through courage. Remember this night, children, for it is a reminder that even the smallest acts of kindness can spark the greatest changes." Kayla bowed her head respectfully while Evan offered a grateful smile. When Scylla turned to leave, Kayla glanced at Evan, her expression thoughtful. "Do you think we'll ever stop surprising each other?" she asked, a playful edge to her tone. Evan chuckled, shaking his head. "I hope not. Life would be pretty boring without a little mystery." They shared a laugh, the sound mingling with the distant hum of insects and the soft rustle of leaves. Above them, the twin moons shone brightly, casting their light over a world forever changed not by conquest or destruction, but by the simple yet powerful act of reaching out across divides. As the fire died down and the crowd dispersed, Kayla looked up at the stars, her heart full. She thought of the day Evan had removed the poisonous arrow from her paw, an act of kindness that had set everything in motion. And she knew, without a doubt, that humanity's greatest strength wasn't its tools or ingenuity, it was its capacity to care, to connect, to believe in the impossible. In the end, it wasn't about survival, it was about hope. And hope, Kayla realized, was the most resilient force of all.